Welcome to Unpacking Peanuts, the podcast where three cartoonists take an in-depth look at the greatest comic strip of all time, Peanuts by Charles M. Schulz.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. It's your most beloved podcast, Unpacking Peanuts, or one of your most beloved, one of your top 10 most beloved. Anyway, you subscribe to this, I'm assuming, or maybe not. Anyway, welcome to the show. It's Unpacking Peanuts. I'll be your host, Jimmy Gownley. I'm also a cartoonist. I do things like Amelia Rules, 7 Good Reasons Not to Grow Up, The Dumbest Idea Ever. And you can read all of my ongoing comics work right now at gvillecomics.substack.com. And joining me, as always, are my pals, co-hosts, and fellow cartoonists. He's a playwright and a composer, both for the band Complicated People, as well as for this very podcast. He's the co-creator of the original comic book price guide, the original editor for Amelia Rules, and the creator of such great strips as Strange Attractors, A Gathering of Spells, and Tangled River. It's Michael Cohen.
Say hey.
And he's executive producer and writer for Mystery Science Theater 3000, a former vice president for Archie Comics, and the creator of the Instagram sensation Sweetest Beasts. It's Harold Buchholz.
Hello.
And making sure everything goes smoothly and keeping us out of trouble, it's producer and editor Liz Sumner.
Howdy.
Well, guys, we're inching ever closer to our goal. We're at the tippy top of Mount Everest, and we're about to jump. So, so I'm pretty excited. I never really thought we'd make it, I guess, in some resources of my brain. So I'm pretty happy. Some recesses of my brain, rather. So I'm pretty happy.
Well, we haven't made it yet.
I should shut up about it. Yeah.
I like the idea of someone climbing Mount Everest just to jump off.
Do you know what I think it would be great? The people, whoever's at the top of Mount Everest, the local municipality or whatever, they should make people give all their life savings. Once you're already up there, and go, sorry, you can only go these last 20 feet, but you have to sign everything over for it to me.
Right.
That's exactly what you deserve if you're standing in line at the top of Mount Everest.
And the money goes to retrieving all the frozen bodies that are still there.
Poop.
Yeah. Oh, my God. So, Harold, do you have anything, any backstory or anything at this point?
No, not really. We know what's coming.
Yeah.
And there's this kind of a little bit of a quiet period for Peanuts in the news back in 1999. I think we can just focus on the strips today.
Yeah, and there's a lot to talk about in these strips. How are you guys feeling when you see that this is the last time we see such and such a character, or two characters interact, or things like that? How are those things starting to hit?
Well, I'm actually picking a few for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, that information is important to me. I mean, it wasn't important to Schulz because he had no idea.
Right. Yeah, but it is hugely important. You see some of these characters who have had, relationships going back almost 50 years, and it's the last time they'll have a new interaction. It's pretty special.
Yeah. The thing that struck me reading this range, which was from May 1st to the end of end of August, was that it seemed like he had this real flurry of creativity after the hiatus. He was refreshed from his hiatus, and I'm sure he backlogged a bunch of ideas because he didn't stop thinking about Peanuts. We know that. And so there was a really lovely fresh run of stuff. Reading these kind of felt a little more like treading water to me in some ways. There's still some real gems, but that was just kind of the sense I had. And again, every time I pick these up to read them in blocks, I realize that I'm bringing me to the strip, and I don't know if I'm just in a different place when I'm reading these, but these seemed to be, I don't know how to describe it, but they seemed to be, they weren't venturing into new territories like we always see him doing as much. That was my sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he has, all we have is time and energy, and he's kind of run out of both at this point.
Well,
yeah, I'm not sure how he's feeling at this point. It's hard to tell, but yeah, I don't know if what hit him, what's going to come that leads to the end of the strip, if that was something that he experienced quickly, or if there was just stuff that was dragging him down. Obviously, he was stressed. We know he was stressed, and it was really hard, getting harder and harder, I'm guessing, to do these strips. It's taking him longer, and it was probably very, very hard. As you're getting older and things take longer, that's got to put stress on you if you have to keep up exactly the same output you've always had. You can't really adjust that.
I mean, he's been the same output since he's been 30.
Yeah.
As a cartoonist, and then every other responsibility has just increased.
Managing an empire, yeah.
But then again, he had total power, being so popular. He could have made a decision, I'm just going to do Sundays.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do Sundays.
Yeah, that's what I think Gary Trudeau ended up doing, is just converting it to a Sunday strip, yeah. Whatever you felt, too, whatever you were consciously aware of, I mean, he did have cancer at this point, and he didn't know it. But he had it.
Yeah.
But like I was doing, I took a commercial gig recently that I've been really enjoying doing. And I was up late working on it last night because today was the deadline. And it's hard. It's a lot of work to be a cartoonist. Like, oh, all right, I penciled it. Great. Well, now I got to ink it. Just there's step after step. There's really very few, even though since the whole thing is based on shortcuts, there's no shortcuts left. Right. And you just got to sit there and fill in all the boxes. And it's a lot of work. And I can't imagine having drawn almost 18,000 strips. I mean, it's an insane achievement to even contemplate.
Yeah.
I was surprised because I hadn't read the strip at all in the 90s. I might have seen one or two. But, when they published that last strip, everyone saw it. It was in all the newspapers. You couldn't avoid reading it, and I was really shocked at how much his drawing ability had deteriorated. So, and I was always assuming that it was kind of a line leading to that, that it would be a degeneration, leading up to that style. And reading this, we're 4 months away from the end of the strip. Going, no, it wasn't deteriorating at all. These are actually almost exactly what he'd been doing throughout the 90s.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what we think of the last few, to see if we're seeing any difference there right at, when things
Yeah, there were a few in this block of 4 months that I was like, oh, ouch, what's going on here? But for the most part, given that we have been reading these in sequence, and the change is so gradual, Schultz has kind of taken me along on his journey, and I'm with him. Like Michael, if I happen to open up a Sunday newspaper in the 90s and see the art, it was a shock. But I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like I'm nestled into where he is and what he's doing. And it doesn't bother me the way I thought it might bother me, because I remember how much it bothered me when I would see it just randomly, because I was like, oh my gosh, he is struggling. This is hard.
Yeah. Well, it's that, that's the difference between art and content, really, or art and even just pop culture. Content, pop culture, what it was when it was coming out at the time, is meant to entertain you and divert you for a few seconds. And in those instances, you can judge things easily. You go, nope, did not entertain me. Nope, not the thing I liked from before. Good day, sir. But when you commit to it and you go, I'm actually going to put work in to appreciate this thing, it always ends up being better. You always end up enjoying it more. You always end up seeing things, I think, that you never saw before. But I don't know if you can do that until it's over. You know what I mean? Like,
well, certainly you can't consume it in mass quantities, because there's not that much new stuff if it's happening in real time.
And you also don't know, like, where are we in this? Is there going to be another 10 years?
Well, yeah, having the context, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
Knowing that this is going to end, obviously, at least my head is, this, I'm savoring it, right? And you wouldn't be doing that
if you didn't know.
If thinking this might go on another 12 years, right?
Yep. Absolutely. Well, with all that said, let's start taking a look at these strips. If you want to follow along with us, the first thing you're going to want to do is go over there to unpackingpeanuts.com and sign up for our newsletter. Sign up for the Great Peanuts Reread. A little late to the game if you haven't, but that's okay. Everyone is always welcome, and you'll have access to all the old back issues, because that'll get you one email a month from us, our little newsletter that'll tell you what we're going to be covering in the upcoming episodes, which will be even more important going forward once we get past the year 2000. So once you do that, you go online, you find the strips where you can find them, and then I'll read them to you and we'll discuss them. So let's start off with the strips. Oh, good. A real easy one to read. Jeez. June 6th. Okay, so Snoopy is out taking a little hike with the Beagle Scouts, and he is a Sunday strip, and we see as the Beagle Scouts go off ahead of him, Snoopy yelling, "Tell Conrad not to get too far ahead." But guess what? Conrad doesn't listen. He does go far off ahead. And what does he come up against? But a street sign that is the don't walk sign, meaning on a pole, there is an LED sign and has the red hand, okay, indicating do not walk. Conrad sees this, and of course, it sends his hat skyrocketing off his head. This is shocking. He goes back to the other Beagle Scouts to report what he's seen, and this is indicated by a word balloon with the red hand drawn in it. Conrad takes them back to the don't walk sign, and the other three hats are sent flying in shock at this. Then they race back to their Scoutmaster Snoopy, and they're all babbling about red hands. Snoopy goes to see it, and of course, his hat is sent flying off his head, and his ears go straight up for good measure. And he sees the red hand on top of the pole saying don't walk, or indicating don't walk. So he decides to go back home after all of this, and looking a little shaken, he walks past Charlie Brown, who says, "You're back early. What happened?" And Snoopy says, "Everywhere we went, tall creatures with red hands."
He's only touched on the horror genre a few times. Mostly the blanket, when the blanket came alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a horror strip.
Yeah, and he's done this once before. That scary red hand has popped up earlier, but somehow the Beagle Scouts with Snoopy, this is just incredibly fun and charming. These little guys are responding to this unknown hand, which strangely looks like the state of Michigan.
What a coincidence that is.
But it's not. I haven't seen this red hand. I don't know if this was the red hand in the 90s or a red hand that he remembered. But yeah, the thumb's kind of sticking out. It's a different look, and the sign is different. I don't know why the red hand is not in the middle of the sign. It's kind of off.
Oh no, I think I've seen those where the green is on one side and the red's on the other.
Oh, because there's there's basically two different light bulbs.
Yeah, because there were no blue LEDs for decades.
See. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just seeing everybody respond. I love the hat flying, classic cartooning.
Somebody's hat doesn't fly.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too.
No, that's Conrad, because he's already seen it.
Oh, I see. I get it.
Did you know when your hat flies off, there's two little marks, random marks above it?
Gotta be. Otherwise, it's not an official hat shooting off your head moment.
But there is no official mark. These are all like totally different.
Now, would some cartoonists put the marks below the hat showing where it had come from, or is it always above the hat?
I think
it may go further.
For some reason, above the hat feels right to me. If it was below it, it would feel like it was being rocketed off the head more forcefully or something. Boy, the things we talk about. I have a college degree, for God's sake.
This is why we're here.
I'm a father. And I'm like, I don't know. When the hat flies off Woodstock, what do you think?
It is three cartoonists talking about the greatest comic strip of all time.
It is.
Doesn't mean we're the greatest of all time. Yeah, Schultz brought, I think it was Sally who was upset about the red hand.
That's when I told the story about Michael's greatest moment in his life. Or Michael told the story about the red hand.
I'm not going to tell it again.
I can put a link to the episode where we...
All right. June 23rd. Charlie Brown's sitting in the beanbag with his baseball cap on, watching some TV, and Sally's on the phone. She says to him, Lucy's on the phone. She wants to know why she always has to play right field. And then Charlie Brown says, traditionally, the player who is weakest defensively plays right field. And then Sally says, he says the dumbest player always plays right field. And Charlie Brown says, this could turn really ugly.
Yeah, you don't want to get Lucy mad at you.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, this was one of 2 strips in a row where that was the punchline. He had this could turn ugly, and then this could turn really ugly. So for those who were reading in sequence, they got a little Easter egg there.
Okay, that's a weird foot.
Maybe it's his hands.
They wouldn't reach that far.
Those are his hands.
You know how long his hands are?
Yeah, those are definitely his hands.
He really elongates the characters in the beanbag chair, which is interesting. I don't know why that aesthetically made more sense to him, because we know he breaks rules all the time for whatever he thinks looks best.
Oh, wait, his fingers are kind of webbed.
Well, no, he's holding his 2 hands together.
Oh, okay, now I see it. Yeah, all right.
Whether it's a scrunchie.
When in doubt, white it out. That would have been a good choice, I think, for the hands. One of the things that happens here, like I said before, his issues with scale become really noticeable. Like the hands are coming from the wrong part of the body. Like, could you imagine how long the top of his arm would be?
Yeah.
It just, or his wrists would have to be able to turn at 90-degree angles.
It's like the Young Pillars strips when he had the super tall teenagers.
Yeah, right.
The arms that go on forever.
I thought you said Young Killers, and I'm like, what strip is that? That would be amazing if he did like a film noir, 2 people on the lam. Bonnie
it's a Neil Gaiman
yeah.
graphic novel.
June 29th. Charlie Brown's still in the old beanbag, and Sally comes and says to him, do you think I should go to camp? And Charlie Brown says, only if you want to. And Sally says, want to? Since when have I ever had a choice about anything? And Charlie Brown says, how about the piano lessons? And Sally says, I didn't want to. I really think when you're a kid, everything is, the burden of the world being put upon you for like, hey, wash your hands. Oh my God, to wash my hands. I can't. Oh,
God, I had to take the garbage out once a week.
Oh my God. The humanity. They kids today don't understand what we went through.
Yeah. And
you never realize how much of it's really based all around you. The whole family structure, She has a choice in everything.
I remember swimming lessons. That was a big one. I hated doing swimming lessons. Oh, that was like torture. You have to go down to the pool and get into the freezing water and half drown to learn how to not drown.
And they're always at 8 a.m. That's the only time they have swimming lessons.
Right.
No one has a leisurely afternoon swimming lesson.
No. This is the off hours when no one in their right mind would be at the pool unless they had an appointment.
Right.
Yep.
I took them all the way up to lifeguard training where you had to jump off the high dive fully clothed. I'm sure we discussed this at some point. Wearing like jeans, boots.
I had to get the swimmers. Swimmers. That was the one I had to get to.
There you go. June 30th. Sally's on the phone again and she says, camp? No, I don't want to go to your camp. Stop calling me. So then she says to her big brother, I told them I didn't want to go to their camp. And Charlie Brown, who's sitting in his chair reading, says, good for you. And then Sally says, as she kind of climbs up on the edge of the chair to look over it, she says, really? You mean that? I did the right thing? And Charlie Brown says, absolutely. And then Sally says, good for me.
It's cool that he's doing something he has not done in 49 years. He's not had a kid crawling over the top of an easy chair before, or tucking her head underneath the bottom of the oversized armrest.
This looks like he challenged himself, and because of the challenge, it elevated it, I think, and I further feel like that was something observed. A little kid running around, hopping up on the armchair of his easy chair, something like that. This is a great life lesson. She just someone called and said something. She forthrightly said her opinion and said that'll be the end of it. That's actually the mature way to handle everything. and it's the first person possibly in Peanuts. Is this the first time anyone acted reasonably in Peanuts?
And you say that this was a strip where it looks like he kind of pushed himself to do something different and unique. And what's interesting is this run of strips, we mentioned the lettering occasionally goes super wonky. Here it's really strong. I mean, that's good lettering. I mean, you don't see any trouble with his lettering here. So I don't know if it's one of those things. This is a good day. The lettering seems to be my guide to how he's feeling, because it's the thing, exactly what it's supposed to look like, and then you kind of see it in connection to how far off it is from what we know he's shooting for.
Yeah. July 4th. It's a symbolic panel, I assume, but maybe not, of Rerun reading a gigantic book. Not in terms of page count, but in terms of the physical size of the book. It's bigger than Rerun. And then we have another panel on this top tier of the Sunday where Rerun just begins saying, "Last night," and Linus is next to him holding his blanket. Then the strip begins for real with Rerun and Linus sitting there, Linus in classic thumb and blanket position. And Rerun says, "Grandpa read it to me. It was in a story by Leo Tolstoy. This woman had 4 children, see," and this is Rerun continuing, "and they all slept together in a big cradle." Linus is making no reaction to this, just sitting there with his thumb and blanket. And Rerun says, "When she put them to bed, she gave each one a sucking rag." Linus perks up at this. Doesn't like the sound of it. And then there's a silent panel with Linus sitting there and just looks at Rerun, who isn't saying anything, seems to be just keeping to himself. But then as Linus gets up to leave, Rerun turns and says, "Enjoy your sucking rag." And then from off panel, Linus throws the blanket at Rerun, hitting him in the head, and Rerun is delighted at his little dig at his older brother.
That's a great little moment. That's something we haven't seen with Rerun and Linus before.
Yeah. Well, now this year he has shown them together much more.
Yes.
And I think it's cool because, the other thing, we keep thinking of Linus as his big brother, which is true. But Linus has now become a middle child, which is we were talking about in a recent episode how people change depending on the group dynamic they're in.
Yeah.
There's no more delicately balanced group dynamic, I don't think, than probably 3 siblings.
Yeah, Linus has largely been checked out, but we're seeing a little bit more of an engagement here. But you certainly haven't seen Rerun take the initiative to make a point to Linus. Other than, at least he's done some stuff like that, maybe you could say, with both Linus and Lucy around him, but specifically Linus. It must be in the Van Pelt genes to dig to do digs on people. I don't know.
Well, I think it's a classic sibling thing, right? I mean, people joshing each other. Well, this is the only way me and my friends spoke to each other, was like teasing, and I don't think anyone ever said anything sincere in my entire childhood.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, there's sometimes I slip into talking just the way I talk to everyone I knew growing up, including my parents and grandparents, and you delicate flowers like wilt. It's really weird.
Yeah, it seemed like, I'd have friends where we would be looking alongside each other at something. It was very very Mystery Science Theater. I remember when I was like 9 years old, we'd gotten one of those gigantic, heavy cassette tape recorders with the plug-in mic. That was the best thing for our family to have. So, we'd invite a friend over and we would be doing parodies of TV commercials and stuff in the recorder, but we wouldn't be digging on each other.
So you guys, right, because you will make fun of people who are either dead or not present. Got it.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. Yeah, we were looking at stuff together. We weren't trashing each other. We were looking at
But
stuff
that was the love. Like, I love those guys. Like that. There was.
Oh no, I know. I a friend from Youngstown, Ohio, who said, yeah, that was absolutely, and the fact that we allowed each other to say the most horrible things that certainly in a PC culture absolutely would not fly.
No.
But I mean, he made impassioned arguments for why it was so important that the things that we had in common and what we had different, we were able to dig each other incredibly hard, and that signified something to them,
Right.
that they were really close, that they had the right to do that with each other.
Well, yeah, and if an outsider does it, it doesn't
Right.
work.
Right.
Yeah.
But it defines you as an insider, yeah. Because
Yeah, and you
that
also
would be
wouldn't
taboo.
talk to an outsider like that. If you don't have the closeness and you don't have the friendship to build on, you're just mean.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. And that's why I think it's hard, like, because those cultures and those groups, like your friend and I had, they're not everywhere.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
some people will look at your
Yeah.
at what you grew up with and have absolutely no idea what you're talking about or where you're coming from.
Right.
And it's weird. The little rerun in that fourth panel, the parentheses are gone around his eyes. He has little eyebrows instead. And yeah, he just looks different. It's almost like visually he's graduated into something in this strip, as well as in terms of the theme and what's going on in the strip. That him being hit with the blanket in the last panel and with the big smile on his face and his tongue sticking out is adorable and absolutely new. We have not seen that with any character. I don't think I remember ever seeing a character happily being hit or something.
Yeah.
It's really special, and it's like, oh, this is a Peanuts I've never seen before, and that's cool seeing that this late in 1999.
And that's one of the things with cartooning that's difficult to do is, like, you know, because there's not dialogue in that particular panel, right? But a lot of times the facial expression, like it is in this, is different than, or it implies something different than the overall content of the panel. Right. So if someone says something, and the character's smiling, it's different than if they say the same exact thing, but the character's frowning. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And if Rerun just had like an open mouth, like shocked look, it would be a totally different thing.
Oh, yeah. This is a joyous strip in a strange way.
Yes.
Even though he's ticked off Linus.
Right.
But
who isn't that ticked off probably either.
Well, yeah. And in a way that, it's like being healthily ticked off.
Yeah.
And very cleverly ticked off by this little Rerun, he's got a lot of interesting insights.
Absolutely. July 11th, Charlie Brown's at camp and he's standing at the end of a dock. Then he sits down, and who should appear next to him but good old Peggy Jean. And he says to her, "Peggy Jean," and she goes, "Brownie Charles." And they both look very happy to see each other. And Charlie Brown says, "I didn't know you were here at camp. Actually, I was just thinking about you." And then Peggy Jean leans on one of the pillars of the dock and says, "I wasn't going to camp this year, but my boyfriend said he'd be here." And then she walks off the deck saying, "Anyway, I promised to meet him over by the soccer field." And Charlie Brown says, "Boyfriend?" And then he calls out after her, "But remember when? And then there's just a silent panel as he watches out after her. And he goes to a payphone and calls his sister and says, "Sally, put Snoopy on the phone, will you?" And she does, and Snoopy says, "Woof." And Charlie Brown says, "Thanks. I needed to hear a friendly voice."
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
And of course, that is the final Peggy Jean.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, that's a great one. Sad.
I always thought it was very odd that she just disappeared.
Yeah.
It looked to me like Schultz was taking a big gamble on really changing one of the characters. And he just kind of dropped it. So he wraps it up here.
When you see that, I mean, wrapping it up is exactly what's going on. And I mean, as you see these next couple months, it's hard to not feel like things are getting wrapped up, even though they couldn't have been consciously. You know, but if you were going to write a good ending to Peggy Jean, that fits with Charlie Brown, and you don't want it to make it a happy one, this is a great one.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. He's sitting out by himself on the dock at this camp. And then he turns to his right, and she is kneeling next to him at the end of the dock.
Yeah.
And she's just shown up to tell him that she wasn't going to go to camp, but her boyfriend's here. He's got to go meet him. That was it. She doesn't even, she just says his name, and she doesn't go, hello. Doesn't say, great to see you. She just came to tell him that she's got a boyfriend and she's got to go. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown.
And here's the big twist. Next one.
July 13th. Charlie Brown and Linus are hanging out at the thinking wall, and Linus says, I just saw the little red-haired girl down at the playground. We had a nice talk. She sure is cute. And Charlie Brown says, did she say anything about me? And Linus says, did she what? And Charlie Brown says, I can't stand it.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, Linus, man, stabbing his friend in the back.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Or is he just talking to the little red-haired girl who happens to be in this school?
You don't tell Charlie Brown that he talked.
You do if it's innocent.
It's never in it.
No, if you're
Look
aware.
at that sly smile on Linus's face.
That's not sly. It's just happy.
He's a divil, as my mother would say.
I'm with Liz.
No, I mean, obviously he was doing nothing wrong, and clearly the little red-haired girl is just the bee's knees, but he could have mentioned Charlie Brown. It wouldn't have hurt him,
Well, when you're living your life, I'm assuming we who read Peanuts would think that Charlie Brown's pining, but Linus is only around for part of his pining.
Well, and maybe
he's just living his life. He's on the playground. I mean, come on.
And in the next panel, after Charlie Brown repeats himself, Linus can say, "Yes, we had a long talk about you."
So he
just misunderstood.
Yeah.
Linus has given Charlie Brown a lot of chances with the little red-haired girl, and has tried to push him forward. And I think it would not be inappropriate to wash your hands of that and just go on.
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, but I wouldn't say she was cute, and I wouldn't say, hey, that girl you pine about? I talked to her today, boy. She is cute, and also I didn't mention you.
I would, especially if you agree that she's cute. That's something you got in common. That's not bad.
I guess. We'll agree to differ.
Okay. Great drawing of Linus in second panel.
Yeah.
It's up to you to decide if he's being sly or not. Listeners, is he looking sly? Is he looking
he's definitely
pining?
looking
Is he
happy.
He's off in another place, it seems like, in that.
This is why he doesn't understand what Charlie Brown said.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's contemplating.
Contemplating how
making out with Charlie Brown's one true love. We get it. I know what's happening. July 14th. Moving on. So we're out here on the old pitcher's mound, and there's Schroeder, Charlie Brown, and Lucy. And Schroeder says, that sounds like a fire engine. And Charlie Brown, ever the quick mind, says, something must be on fire. And Lucy says, well, it sure isn't our pitcher. And then she laughs. And she walks back out to right field. And Schroeder says to Charlie Brown, let her get about 10 feet away, then throw your glove at her.
Knowing he's not going to hit her. She's 10 feet away.
Right. Yeah, not if he lets her get as far as 10 feet away. Yeah. But this I picked because this is the last time we see Schroeder and Charlie Brown together.
Aww.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I missed that note.
Yeah.
Breaks my heart. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of heartbreak coming up.
Yeah.
A lot of goodbyes. Many, many partings.
Eek.
Yeah,
Let's just stop the podcast now. I don't want to have this much pain.
Be of good cheer.
Yes.
Yeah, this next one is a heartbreaker.
Well, how about we take a break?
Okay.
And then come
A
back.
heartbreak?
A heart.
Oh.
And yeah, we'll take a heartbreak and come back. And that sounds like we're going to have baby aspirin. All right, we'll take a break and then we'll come back and we'll check the mail and do stuff like that.
Okay. Hi, everyone. We may have finished the Great Peanuts reread, but we're not finished talking about these strips. We have lots more to say about the characters, the art, the humor, the pathos, and how the strip developed over the 50 years. Starting in September, new episodes will be available twice a month, exclusively on Patreon. After the 3-month season is finished, they'll be available for everyone without a paywall. We hope you'll stay with us on this amazing ride. To sign up, go to patreon.com/unpackingpeanuts.
All right, we're back. Liz, I'm hanging out in the mailbox. We got anything?
We do. We got an email from super listener John Adama, who writes, "Here is what happens when a tangent of the podcast intersects with a tangent of peanuts." And he sends us a YouTube link, which is Vince Guaraldi and Brazilian jazz guitarist Bola Sete playing I'm a Loser.
Whoa.
Beautiful version of that. I have that album. I have the Greatest Hits album. And there's a couple of his collaborations with that guitar player. I really like that. I think it's real good.
Boy, I really didn't.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I love bossa nova. I love Brazilian music, but that version of I'm a Loser did not work for me at all.
Huh. Well, there you go.
Wow.
That's it. This email has divided Unpacking Peanuts.
Agree to disagree once again.
Once again.
There we are. I have a shout out.
Okay.
So I got a job at Archie Comics. I was helping them out, trying to figure out their business because they lost a bunch of people in the upper management, and I just got pulled in to kind of help them sort things out. And then I got hired, and the very first day after I signed the contract was the first day of the New York Comic Con, and so I was invited down to just be at the booth because I still lived in Virginia, and we were getting ready to make the big move. But I was down there. I think Stan Lee showed up, got to shake his hand. It was cool. And then this couple walked up into the booth, and this lady asked about one of the guys who had been running the second generation of this family-owned Archie business. And I had to tell her that he passed away. Well, she had dated him.
Oh my God.
And she was like, "Oh, sorry, so sorry to hear that." I says, "Do you have any more details?" As I said, "I'm sorry, I just started at Archie like yesterday." And then the guy who was with her said, "So you just got a job? The Archie's in Mamaroneck, New York, right? Just north of us." And I said, "Yes." He said, so are you moving to the area?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "What areas are you looking at?" I said, "I'm looking at a town called Rye." He says, "Oh, I live in Rye." I said, "You do?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Is there any place in Rye you're looking at?" He says, "Well, there's this beautiful little cottage on 9 Beck Avenue in Rye." And he said, "That's across the street from me."
Oh my God.
And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah." And he says, "And by the way, I'm the pastor of the Trinity Presbyterian Church in Rye. If you're looking for a church home," he gave me his business card. And he said, I'd love to see you. And I was kind of floored by it. And that evening, I called up Diane, who was down in Virginia, my wife, and I said, "I just met this guy. He's the senior pastor of the Trinity Presbyterian Church. And he would be our neighbor across the street if we get this cottage," which we did get. But when I was telling Diane, it's like, "Yeah, this guy's the senior pastor of Trinity Presbyterian Church." He says, I was just online today trying to find a church, and I picked Trinity Presbyterian Church.
Oh.
I was like, "You're kidding me." So that was just really cool because that was the first neighbor, first friend, and my church and pastor all in one little meeting. He's like, I don't tend to run into senior pastors of churches at Comic-Cons. I don't know about you guys. It's kind of unusual. And we did wind up going to that church. That's my church today. And I just want to send a shout out. Craig is also a super listener of Unpacking Peanuts, and Craig Higgins, and he just retired after 30 years at our church. So I just wanted to give him a shout out.
That's fantastic. Wow. Yeah. Well, enjoy your retirement. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Congratulations. And
thank you for listening.
And writing. He communicates too.
Yes. So that's the mailbox. If you want to reach out, I would love to hear from a lot of you as we reach the end. Here's the other thing I would love. Do this for me for a favor. I have read to you. How many strips have I read to these people over the air? Lots.
Let's see, like 20 for 150 episodes, 160, something like that, 20 each.
Using my math skills, that's a lot. So if you want to thank me for reading those peanut strips poorly to you in your ear, give us a review. I would love for us to get a whole bunch of reviews here as we wrap this thing up. It's been a huge joy for us, but it's also been a lot of work. So if you've enjoyed this, let us know. That would be I would consider it a personal favor. And also remember, if I don't hear, I worry. So you don't want to insult me and make me worry.
And we're not going away.
No.
We're just coming to the conclusion of a season.
Yes, exactly.
A season of seasons.
But I want you to do this before we wrap up. So if you got a chance to leave a review for us anywhere, wherever you listen to it, in the next week or so, go ahead and do it. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. What do you say we get back to the old strips? July 17th, Charlie Brown and Franklin are hanging out at the Thinking Wall. And Charlie Brown says, "Is your grandpa still playing golf?" And Franklin says, "Yes, but he's given up trying to shoot his age. Now he's trying to shoot the temperature." They walk away. Franklin says, "It was hot yesterday. He shot a 102.
And so we bid farewell to one of our favorite characters, the Thinking Wall.
No!
Yep, this is the last appearance.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
that hurts for some reason.
I
You know
know.
what? He never made the Thinking Wall think, did he? That's really
No.
good. Like when everything was thinking, like the school was thinking and rocks were thinking, the Thinking Wall itself we never heard
Yeah,
it stuff, right?
it was a good old wall.
It was a good old wall.
It continues on our T-shirts and our logo.
Yes.
Wow. And reading this one, of course, again, based on Schultz being at the end of his life. And it's also poignant. Shooting your age.
Yeah. I like this drawing, though. I like them at the Thinking Wall. And I like the little gate, even though the gate's super rickety. But that's okay for a gate.
You like the stripes on Franklin's shirt?
Oh, my God. That's so weird. I didn't even recognize it.
It's a 90s thing, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Really weird. But that's the good-looking comic strip. Again, when you see Charlie Brown's head, like, you're not seeing any tremor.
No.
Like, you see, though, the gate, and it looks like it's barely held together. It's held together by his sheer willpower.
Yeah.
But Charlie
and some
Brown,
beautiful zipatone that kind of complements it.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who did zipatone quite the way this was done. Whoever was doing it, it's nice.
Well, wouldn't it have been Photoshopped at this point?
No.
Really?
It doesn't look it.
Hmm.
It doesn't look it. I'm guessing.
I'm sure this was still that way. To do it Photoshop with zipatone, you'd have to actually scan the zipatone in and then move it around like a texture. You couldn't just like paint with it. So I think it'd probably be easier.
I get it.
Now you can in Clip Studio Pro. By the way, if anyone's ever been playing around with Clip Studio Pro as a cartoonist too, there's a whole setting where you could just like create a layer of tone and then draw with your stylus rather, zipatone to look however you want. Shadows on the wall that perfectly match your person.
I had no idea it did that.
Are you serious? I'll show you how when we hang up. I'll tell you how. Yeah, but it's really cool. Like I actually, when I was working on some stuff recently, I was really into it. And then so I finished all my stuff up and then gave it a day before I handed it in. And then I went back and I took all the zipatone out. Because I was just having fun doing it. I'm like, oh, this looks like a crazy person.
It's an amazing, amazing program. I'm assuming a lot of our artist listeners know about Clip Studio Paint, but for those of you who are not artists or cartoonists, it was made I believe in Japan specifically for manga artists. And it's amazing to have a program that's made for cartoonists. It also has other capabilities. You can do animation on it. Yeah. Crazy. It's crazy what you can do. You can bring in 3D modeling and all sorts of stuff for layers. And it's cool to have a program made for cartoonists. And it's also cool that Clip Studio Paint works just as well in an iPad as it does on a Mac or a PC, which is not very common for software, certainly art software. So it's incredibly cool. I'm super grateful to have it. I'm working on a Sweetest Beast picture book right now in there. It's great.
Yeah, I just spent a whole week. I'm working on a secret project. I got hired to do something that has been really fun. Put a little cramp in my other schedule, but I've been really enjoying what Clip Studio is able to do. It's great. August 1st. Interesting that this is an August strip because we see Snoopy at Valley Forge, and he is in his Revolutionary War getup with a super tiny Woodstock, also in Revolutionary War getup next to him. And he's sitting on Snoopy. They both are sitting on a log, half buried in the snow, and warming themselves at a fire. And they both are called from off panel, and Snoopy says he wants us. And then we see him salute him and Woodstock saluting outside a log cabin, and they're both dressed in their, Revolutionary War finery. And Snoopy says, "Patriot Snoopy and Patriot Woodstock reporting, sir." And he's just talking to whoever is in the log cabin. Snoopy continues, "Yes, sir, we can do that." And then he turns to Woodstock, who is carrying a giant rifle that is 5 times the size of him, 4 times the size of him. And Snoopy says to him, "General Washington wants us to deliver this message to Thomas Paine." Snoopy then reads the message, what's the ethics of this? I'm not sure.
It's not an envelope.
I guess
it's
that's
not
true.
Sealed with wax.
So Snoopy reads it, and it says, "Dear friend, I'm concerned of your welfare. Are you well? Tell me your thoughts." And then Snoopy arrives at Thomas Paine's house and says, "Mr. Paine, a message from the general. Do you have a response?" And then apparently Thomas Paine gives him a response because Snoopy reads, "These are the times that try men's souls." And Snoopy reads and goes, "That's too depressing. I'll change it a little." And then he brings it to Washington and says, "Here you are, sir." And Snoopy says to Woodstock as they walk away, "See, my message made him feel better." And Woodstock asks a question. And Snoopy says, "I said, no problem. Have a nice day." I don't know why, but that really makes me laugh.
The strip, the Woodstock with the gun is why I picked this strip.
At the Woodstock. So cute.
Because it's a tiny gun for Snoopy, but it's just like humongous for Woodstock.
Yeah.
And he never stops carrying it at his shoulder. He is ready.
Yeah.
But this seems to fall in this weird netherland of, it seems more real than most of his fantasies.
Yeah.
It's really developed. So it's almost like he's positing there was a Snoopy and a Woodstock back then.
Oh, wait a second. That's amazing. If you could do like a universe of Snoopies all appearing throughout, which of course he kind of does. But this is like a really extreme version of it. Yeah.
Well, what's unique about this version of Snoopy is usually Snoopy is doing something that's got aspiration in it, right? He's going to be, I'm going to be another animal because that's cool. I'm going to be a World War I flying ace. I'm going to be Joe Cool. And even though playing those characters can have their downsides, there's something about it that is, I think, more aspirational than this is. This
Patriot
seems like
Snoopy isn't aspirational?
Well, he's Patriot Snoopy, but he's Patriot Snoopy with bandaged feet.
Yeah, right.
Cold. And it just seems like he's in a place of hardship, baked in hardship,
right,
whenever we see him in this space. And so, yeah, now you got Woodstock. Look at that little drawing of Woodstock, on the bottom tier, the third panel in. That is just insanely adorable and strange at the same time. And
I like all of them. I love the panel in the second tier where they're walking past the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, gosh, he did spend a lot of time on this. You can see a lot of thought, extra trouble to make this strip, and we've seen that a lot with these ones that have to do with war. And again, you think about somebody who went through that early in life, and it's something that never leaves you, right? And he is processing it. On top of that, this is one of the strips that jumps out to me as artistic struggle. I noticed whatever size he's working on the Sundays versus the dailies, he has a lot more trouble with the lettering if he's struggling on the Sundays because of the size of whatever he's writing compared to the daily. It's not the same size, but he's using, I think, the same tool. So that that upper right-hand corner throwaway panel, Patriot Snoopy and Patriot Woodstock reporting, sir, that's struggle in that lettering. It's just doesn't look like his traditional lettering. But then you've got that little centerpiece one where he's reading Washington's note to Thomas Paine, and that looks pretty darn good. So yeah, this one made me think of struggle, and then of course the whole theme is struggle, and then Snoopy trying to take some of the struggle out in his letter. I don't know. It works really well. It's got of a piece. It's super special.
Yeah, I love the little birds in the background. I the other thing, it's like it's August that this came out, right? Is that right? Mm-hmm. And it's all winter.
Yeah, and it feels cold. Let's reading it.
Yeah. I don't have anything further really to say about that, but that's just
the thing that hits me when you say that is he's not going to get another winter.
Yeah,
if he hadn't done it now, we wouldn't have it. Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, he gets November through February. That's winter.
That's true. In California, not so much.
True.
August 11th, Emily, Snoopy, and Charlie Brown are all dancing, and then we see the Arthur Murray School step diagrams explaining what they're doing, which is a chaotic, crazy mess with girls' feet, boys' feet, and dog paws.
But it's two kinds of dog paws. Is that?
Oh well, it's left feet and right. I don't know what that means.
The black and white must be left and right.
Huh. Or front and back.
Years ago, I said I had 5 strips that were like the all-time greatest, and this is one.
This is not one.
No, this is one.
What?
I'm only kidding. I don't understand it. Yeah, I don't really understand it. But I guess
I picked this one. It's just well, again, we're in context reading this. Yeah. It's like, okay, he's got a little nice last minute burst of joy here.
Well,
and the only joke is, I mean, when I first read it, because I'm so used to the language of what he's doing, it's like there's no joke. But of course, the joke is you've got Snoopy's paws in the mix of the Arthur Murray.
Oh yeah.
And 3 of them are dancing, and it's this crazy diagram.
The drawing of them dancing is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love the drawing of them dancing, and whoever is doing this Zipatone, adding the little white.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, hold on a second. I wonder. All right, can I speculate wildly? And
sure.
I will say, I'm probably wrong about this. But when you put Zipatone down on paper and then let it sit there for years, it shrinks. It doesn't always line up perfectly. So this is either someone very delicately. No, you know what? Yeah, it must be someone.
That would be too much serendipity every single time.
Right. It wouldn't have worked with the lines and stuff. Right. So someone is going in and putting those little highlights in her hair, which is with an X-Acto knife, which is not easy. This
is the best use of Zipatone I've ever seen.
Really?
Whoever's doing it. Yeah. Because of the using the edges to not go up to the line art itself, but creating little highlights by cutting short of that.
Yeah.
Over and over again. Really good choices. Whoever's doing it
looks amazing.
It looks better. There's Zipatone in lots of comic strips, and all of those duo shades and all of that. But the more I look at this, the more I'm like, this is a real artistic use of shading. It's nice.
I can just ask you guys right now, what are your thoughts? Because I don't think I've ever talked to either about that. What do you guys think of duo shade? For our listeners out there, that's when, to get those dots effects that you would get right there in her hair, to give it a tone. That's where the paper is already printed with dots that you can't see. And then you put a chemical on it and it develops the dots. But it gives a very different kind of grungier look. What do you guys think of that?
My personal feeling is it looks terrible in black and white, but with color over it, it looks great.
If you put the color over it, it does make a difference. That's interesting.
For me, all I can think of when I see it are the original strips that I've seen what they look like now, 50, 70 years later. And all I just smell chemicals and and toxicity whenever I see it.
So toxic. I can't imagine people using those, several times a day.
Mm-mm.
Like poor old Roy Crane. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't envy anybody who committed to that and had to live with it. Oof. And the strips don't hold up well.
Do you think that affects the value of the original art? Like Howard Chaykin's American Flag is like considered a classic of the 80s comics, right? I'm not talking about like Buzz Sawyer and stuff, which obviously is going to have value because, it's in the pantheon of things, and Crane's a great cartoonist. But do you think it takes, like, if you're just a regular level cartoonist that has pages to sell that are all yellowing and stuff, do you think that hurts the value?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I would think so. I think it hurts it less than if it's like in the world of comic books. It's crazy. Like when I first got involved in comic book collecting, this would be like early 80s. The difference between something that was in just ratty condition and really good condition was like 3 times.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the collectors get into it and they're like, no, I want the ultimate one. And so the value of the one that's in ratty condition kind of stays low. The ones that are like the 9.9 graded by professionals against all standards of comics, all of a sudden it's like 20, 40, 100 times.
Yeah, but original art's different because each one is one of a kind.
Yeah. But that was my point, was that if you have somebody who always did the same thing and you only have the ratty version, then it probably doesn't hurt as badly.
Because it is what it is.
Yeah. It's like Walt Kelly, whenever he would send off a pogo strip, apparently he would fold them. And if you could get an unfolded one and then there were like 100 folded ones, then the unfolded one's going to go through the roof, I'm guessing, for some strange reason, because someone's looking for the rare unfolded one he handed to somebody versus mailing it.
Schultz did that for years as well. Sent them to the syndicate folded in half, which is just so weird.
Yeah, this strip he'd have a hard time doing that.
Yeah.
So it's one panel.
Yeah, you gotta have that space between panels 2 and 3. You can fold it. And finally, August 19th, Rerun is sitting there, and Lucy comes in holding a book, and she's yelling, "Why are you just sitting there?" And she holds up a book and yells at him, "This is a book. You know what a book is, don't you?" And this sends Rerun flying butt over tea kettle. And she sits next to him as he's dazed and confused, and she calls off panel, "Nothing, Mom. I'm just encouraging him to read."
Man, this kid's going to grow up really messed up.
He's going to have some nervous tension.
Become an underground cartoonist.
Yep.
Well, given that he was just being read Tolstoy, Lucy's being a little hard on him, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and Lucy has probably never read a book in her life.
Yeah, and this is the last appearance of Mom.
Oh, there you go. Well, guys, we have one more episode left of this year, and then one more episode left of the whole shebang. Is that right?
No, actually, it's not right, because after we recorded this, the guys picked so many strips to talk about that we're doing a 4th episode for 1999. So based on what I know in this moment, we've got 3 more episodes of the reread, plus the season finale, and then we go into our new format.
Then we've decided what our first post reread series is going to be, right?
Yes, but we shouldn't tell them now. We have to.
All right, we're not going to tell them, but we figured out what our next season's going to be. How we're going to approach this, having read all 17,897 strips. So we'll probably reveal that in the next episode or 2. So please, no wagering. So with all that said, as we approach the end, this has been a joy. It's a joy every week, not just because I get to hang out with my pals and talk about what I love, but also because all you fine people are out there listening. And I love it. It's just been so great. And I think I can say that for all of us. We have had a wonderful time. So it's not over yet. Come back next week where we're going to be wrapping up 1999.
No, we're not wrapping it up.
So with all that said, come back next week. For Michael, Harold, and Liz, this is Jimmy saying, be of good cheer.
Yes.
Yes.
Be of good cheer. Unpacking Peanuts is copyright Jimmy Gownley, Michael Cohen, Harold Buckholtz, and Liz Sumner. Produced and edited by Liz Sumner. Music by Michael Cohen. Additional voiceover by Aziza Shakrala Clark. For more from the show, follow Unpack Peanuts on Instagram and Threads. Unpacking Peanuts on Facebook, Blue Sky, and YouTube. For more about Jimmy, Michael, and Harold, visit unpackingpeanuts.com. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for listening.
Well.